I'm speaking like this because it's very hard to make an observation. Please go check out the previous part to gauge your bearings, okay? It's very hard to make an observation of how unruly and kind of feral older women become when they did not have love in early years. They become feral. It's like there's nothing you can do to uproot that thing out of them. So when it's that difficult to get saved, when it's that hard for them to get saved later on, why not just piously serve the Lord, sutured next to him for years from your youth, that you might watch yourself, watch your tongue, watch your heart, guard it, for from it flows the issues of life. Women, it is understandable why it is that you want marriage so much, because the Bible said that that's our curse. After Eve and Adam fell, the Lord said that Adam would try to rule us and that Eve's desire would be for her husband. So our desire to get married is part of the curse. It literally dwells on us ever so naturally. It is second nature to us. So we want it, and we want it desperately, and the earlier it happens, the better. If you can dodge the bullet of being a spinster, you're better off as a woman. Whether or not in the 21st century women imagine that things are different, bottom line is when women get married, they literally, they wipe sweat off their brows, because proper. It is scary to end up a spinster. It is scary to be 35 and single and up. It is scary to be me. It is. It's absolutely nerve-wracking. I'm 39. It's nerve-wracking. We understand it. But like, the long-term consequences of quickly getting into a marriage is destructive. Indeed. Adam's curse was to rule a woman. So if you've got this despotic husband that has no regard for your heart, because he has not been trained by Jesus Christ to love a woman the way that Christ loved the church, you're gonna end up with causing the earth to tremble underneath you. You're going to end up causing the earth to not be able to bear up under you. You don't want to become what these women become, guys, because it's ugly. They can do nothing but yell and scream and shout and speak to young women like they're nothing. They like words can hurt, like words, the sharpness of words, when they pierce into your heart, making you feel worthless, like you're nothing, like there's nothing good that you can ever do. When a woman is out just like constantly telling you that when you're young. And the thing about parents, mothers, is that their daughters often really desperately desire their approval. And when you're not getting it, when it's just not coming, that can devastate you for the rest of your days. It can make you feel like you want nothing. You want nothing. They don't take into consideration consequences, suicide ideation. They don't realize that they can actually drive their kids to death with all that rapping. You don't want to be that woman. You do not want to be that mean-spirited woman because of the fact that you married a horrible guy. If you don't wait on the Lord for a husband, you will end up in... Yo, guys, I had a friend when I was still on the come up. I was working. I was employed. I reconnected with her. I had met her when I used to be a trainer at Nedbank, and then we found each other years down the line. I trained her, okay, in a class, and we got along really well, and so we basically became friends on what do you call this, on Facebook. She found me, right? I was very young for my job. The rest of my colleagues were much older than me, so that chick and I were more or less the same age, and we just got along like a house on fire. And she liked me because I was, I don't know, like an inspiration or something. I was young and I was doing well type thing. So we became friends on Facebook, and after we found each other, we started to talk, all right? And then we were DMing each other. Yeah, that's how we were communicating via Facebook DM. And she told me that she has since gotten married. She was a very beautiful woman. She was older than me by maybe like 2 years or something. She had gotten married, and she had at that stage gotten married and divorced. It had only been, goodness, I can't even count the years on my hand as 5. I don't even think it was 5 years that had progressed since we last spoke to each other, and yet she had gotten married and divorced in that small space of time. And she was like, yo, Karabo, I've been through hell. I met this guy. He was very handsome. He's a Nigerian man, and he very quickly wined and dined me and proposed marriage. And we got married, and I was expecting to have such a bright, beautiful future with my husband. He was so good looking, and he was so loving. And as soon as I said I do, I saw hell on earth. Like, he literally showed me flames. At that stage, I was with my boyfriend. I was just dating. I was still very young. And so I could not believe that this woman had gone through all that, all in her 20s. Like, she had experienced all that. I'm so sick and tired of abuse. She was, I couldn't believe that she had experienced all of that in just her 20s. Like, everything of that trauma that hurricane that she was twisting in all happened while she was still in her 20s. She got married and divorced, and she spoke about how he was always out. He was cheating, like sometimes he would cheat on women that she knew, and it was just so shocking what she was going through, and she was in a lot of pain. I couldn't believe it. Like when she kept on telling me her story, I couldn't relate, because like I said, we were all so young. It's not like we were these middle-aged women that were complaining about our ex-husbands that we were married with for like 10 years and then got divorced. This was a 26-year-old woman when I was like 24 or something, having been married and divorced in just that small little time. And I could not, like, yeah. That same friend on Facebook is one of my enemies today. One of those women that decided that I'm not going to let another woman go and live a life. So she put witchcraft on me. For me, it's like, don't you see that there is so much destruction that happens when you just enter into, they wine and they dine women, and they treat them so well, and they propose marriage so quickly, and they take out lobola so well. And then once they're married to these women, it's like they feel no obligation to be husbands now, because now they've banked one in particular in the house. That woman, that thing started and ended so quickly that she didn't even have a child in the marriage. But despite all that, her trauma was such that she just could not watch another woman strive and survive. She could not take it, because I'm not going to be the only one going through all this rubbish. Not me. Not today. Not ever. We're not doing it. Guys, these women break hearts. They neglect other women. They cause the sorrow of other women. They make women cry. They can use such harsh words and cause somebody to shrivel up like a snail in a corner and just die. You don't know what you're doing to a person when you keep on just yelling at them when they have nowhere else to go. They're unsupportive. When a person is just squeezed in a corner and all they can do is just be in your house. All they can do is just be in your presence. And you're just yelling. They can't go in their car and sit there to just basically calm down. They can't go into a bed and breakfast. They can't go anywhere. And you're just yelling at them. Like when you keep on, like it's like, you know, when children are getting yelled at by parents who just keep going and going and going. But when that's happening, when you're like an adult woman, when you're all grown up, do you know the pain that you feel when you just feel trapped like an insect in a corner where somebody just bring doom on you so you can finally die? You can't go anywhere. It is written in God's word that like a constant dripping on a rainy day, so too it is sharing a house with a contentious woman. Just spraying vitriol on a person that is already down. She's already suffering. This person is going through a lot. She's experienced life, and you just keep on spraying on her. That's what these women do to people, to women, to daughters, to y'all. You don't want to end up that chick. As the Bible says, as I walk through the valley of the shadow of darkness, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. You can be able to identify a mother like that, a woman like that, an auntie like that, a cousin like that, a friend like that in your family. You can see it. You can see generational curses in your families. When I came to Christ, so much so had I made observations of these curses that when I came to Christ, I prayed against them straight away. I saw the trend, and I would have inevitably ended up my father's daughter and my mother's daughter. Inevitably. I would have ended up my aunt's niece. Inevitably. I would have ended up my cousin's cousin. Inevitably. I would have ended up basically my family member's member. And when I saw this, I took it to God in prayer, and it's taken all this time, and look at me now, appearing to die, fizzle away, a slow death, having no husband and no children, and I'm apparently really, very terribly messed up. Like I'm in a bad bunch, I'm screwed, apparently. But am I out here perpetually yelling at some women, telling them that they're like dust and rubbish? Am I out here squeezing the joy and the peace out of the hearts of young women that are just trying to live their lives? Like, they cannot be chill, yo. They can't. And when you have got that journey that you're going through, the valley of the shadow of darkness, when you're going through it in order to conquer darkness, when you're going through it in order to conquer horrificness, when you are trying to break past the mold, you're going to get attacked, you're going to get scratched, you're going to go through a dark valley. But you should not fear anything, because the Lord is with you. You're just going through a ride at the theme park, and on the other side, you're going to tell the testimony. And this ride is going to get terrible, especially towards the end of it. But when you get out on the other side, you become an example. You become an inspiration. You become a motivation. You become that which is evidence that you don't have to be your family's family member. You don't have to be that thing. The guy in the US, he came from a family of criminals, gang violence all over the show. And he tried to serve Jesus from the age of 15. 15. He was evangelized in prison, in juvie, and he wanted to run with Christ, and he just didn't. Why? because he went through the valley of the shadow of darkness and decided that he's going to fear evil. He wanted to overcome the generational curses of his family. And when it got too hard, when it got too rough, when it got too intense and too extreme, he just capitulated. He turned back. He went back into crime. He went into drug dealing. And so he spent basically his life in and out of prison, just like his family members. Growing up in a violent community full of black people shooting each other dead before they're 21. He grew up in that boys in the hood lifestyle. And he just followed that grain, because when he chose Jesus and said, Christ, I take you, he did not surrender. He decided he's going to do things his way. The resistance that came against him, he capitulated to it. It's written in God's word, many are called, but few are chosen. He got called, but he wasn't chosen. He went through the valley of the shadow of darkness, and he feared that evil and caved. And now years down the line, he wants a woman, kankani, by fire, by force, after living that whole treacherous life. He wants a woman that does not belong to him, that has conquered the generational curse of men like him. He became the kind of man that my family members' women end up marrying to. The kind of man that's going to frustrate a woman until she becomes an adulteress later on. He was only brought into my ecosystem, drawn to my situation, because he was the typical thing that is supposed to stumble women like me. And I resisted him, and now he's trying to kill me, because that's just what his generational curses achieve. He's never fought. The Bible describes in the parable of the sower one category of person that hears the gospel, and as soon as they get persecuted, they fall away. And that's what these people are. They hear the gospel, they're excited, they say, I want to conquer generational curses, and then magushuba, when it gets hot, when the resistance comes, when those on the broad road are scratching at them, that's when they just cave. They throw away the Bible, they throw away Jesus, or they have a reputation for being alive even though they're dead. They're lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, and because they're lukewarm, God is going to spit them out of his mouth. They end up having a form of godliness that denies the power thereof. And so therefore are despisers of those who do good. They end up being non-Christians professing Christ, however, persecuting the living daylights out of true Christians. That's what they end up becoming. That's what happens when you don't fight to the end. That's what happens when you throw in the towel, when you capitulate. Do not grow weary of doing good, but in due season trust that the peaceful fruit of righteousness will incur you unto prosperity. If you do not give up, you will reap the peaceful fruit of righteousness if you don't give up. This guy gave up, and like I said, ended up in and out of prison for years, and now he wants a woman that fought successfully the battle that he lost. He threw in the towel. He didn't believe Jesus when he said, fear not, for I am with you. You're going through the valley of the shadow of darkness. You're gonna get resisted. You come from a family of gangsters. It's gonna pull you in. It's gonna pull you back. You were given concession. When he got evangelized in juvie, his record would have been expunged. He would have not even looked like a criminal at all. He might have even ended up getting a job in corporate South Africa. He all would have been forgotten if he had repented truly at 15. They would never have raised that record up in his future. But then he decided to keep on going in and out of prison like a pendulum. And when you're in and out of prison, you struggle to get good jobs, you struggle to get regular jobs. And so in order to basically feed your family and make life work, seeing as he kept on marrying these women, he had to do crime. He was kept in crime by the fact that he could not, after getting out of juvie, stay out of crime. If upon getting out of juvie, he had stayed out of crime, he would have gotten some silly entry-level job in corporate America and just grew from there, strength to strength, left the hood behind, left that ghetto mindset behind, gotten married, loved a woman, and just had a whole bunch of babies into the future. And today he'd be a happily married man to someone, not me. But instead, in fact, that's the thing, like he had his first child at 19 with some chick that he ended up marrying. He could have stayed married in that if he wasn't so bad a husband, if he wasn't that wife beater, if he wasn't that gangster, if he didn't have all of these things going on, that woman might have been enough for him and they would have stayed together, and today they would have had a lot more kids than just that first daughter. That's what that guy is in America. A man that went through the valley of the shadow of darkness and was like, no thank you, I'm not doing this, it's too dark in here, it's too dark. If he had actually truly repented at 15, he might not have even married that unbelieving woman at 19 because of impregnating her, because he would have walked away from fornication. So basically the whole trajectory of his life would have changed if indeed he did embrace the gospel like he claimed he had at 15. That's the difference. You get the gospel, you run with it. And upon running with the gospel, you then enter into the kingdom of heaven, nice and safe, however, having been scared all the way, en route your deliverance. You will get freaked out. You will get the devil whispering sweet nothings into your ear. But if you don't hold fast to what God is saying, guys, you are going to find yourself in some hot water. Hot water. I am making observations of women destroying the lives of young women because they married badly. Lenyalo, it cannot be that important to you women to a point of destroying your souls. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and yet lose his soul? I have friends that are just these unrecognizable monsters, former friends. They're unrecognizable from how they used to be on the come up. They were never contentious. They were never mean. They were never this horrible thing that they are now today, but they're mad now. They're angry. They're angry at what it is that they experienced in horrible marriages, and some of them are still experiencing it. And so now they're taking it out on me. I literally am constantly at the precipice of death because women cannot stand the joy of women when they have settled with bad men. These guys are destructive. They're cataclysmic. Like I said, they're like a nuclear explosion, leaving radiation poisoning in that ecosystem for decades to come. You gotta avoid them like the plague. La madota, you gotta avoid them until the Lord brings the right one. And you will know, because it's just gonna be so easy, because it's not supposed to be this hard. It's not supposed to be this hard. You will just know when the right guy is around, because it's just gonna fall into place, because it won't be that hard. The difficulty to run a relationship in 2024 is astronomical. It is absurd to feel at all that you're appreciated. The fact that you have to pull that out of a man like you are sapping juice, coconut milk out of a coconut, just using your breath, like just having to get affection that way. Like it literally should not be that hard. It should not take a man 20,000 years to propose marriage. And it also should not be hard for a man to prefer to be with you above the rest of the world. And yet these relationships are so hard. You are made to strive like your mom, the way that she strove with your dad. And because it's your dad, you struggle to see the folly of his ways. But now that you're like, 38, you realize, Uti, my dad was really messed up towards my mom. Literally, it should not be that hard. It should not be that hard. Not all guys are crazy, guys. I'm almost certain of it. Not 100%, because I've yet to meet ones that aren't crazy. But I keep on drawing to myself crazy men because I'm suffering right now. But I'm not going to be like that former friend of mine that I reconciled with on Facebook that married a monster that wined and dined her in the run-up to the marriage and then turned a violent fool literally day after honeymoon. I'm not about to do that. And I see all of this activity happening in the environments around me, with women having been converted into little monsters, and I'm like, I'm not that girl. I'm not going to be the mother that's always here in the ears of a daughter that has not had all that vitriol coming because I'm taking out my trauma on her. I'm not about to be a hated mom, guys. I'm just not going to go through it. Like, I am not about to be an avoidable mom. I'm not about to have a daughter of mine become a freaking therapist because she's trying to cure herself. Physician, heal thyself. I am not about to deal with a kid that can't even stand coming home because she knows there's always going to be a fight that breaks out. She can't stand coming home for the holidays. When she moves out of home, she just, like, literally a whole year can go by. I just hear her on the phone every so often because she knows that every time she comes home, something in me just, and I can't help but just take out my crap on her. There are relationships between mothers and daughters that are like that, where you can't stand going home, where you can't even stay on the phone with that person for more than 30 minutes, for more than 20 minutes. You can't without them calling out something you're wearing as ugly. Like, yeah, like basically just teasing you, dissing you. Are you gonna wear that? Like, what? Goodness gracious. Like the very same insults that a dumb boyfriend would like throw in your direction. Are you sure you're gonna wear that on a date? Like a narcissistic boyfriend, like some pompous little buffoon. Yeah, but that's coming from your mother. Overly critical, won't let you have your own sense of style. Disses completely everything and barely ever compliments you. Like barely ever says, wow, you look so beautiful today. I'm so proud of you. Barely ever. Like who in the world wants that? Like daughters they want their mother's approval so badly. So badly. And when they don't get it, it hurts in a way that these mothers have no idea. They don't understand. But why wouldn't they understand? Because they were daughters too at some point. They were daughters too, and they knew what they wanted from their mothers. And when they didn't get it, why did they then not make an active decision that, look, I'm not going to be that to my kids. I'm telling you, I'm 39 and single, but I'm better off than having been married at 24 to a guy that would have made out of me the kind of mother that would have hated the glory of her daughter. I always like to say that kids are like a volume 2.0 of you on earth. If at all you want to maintain eternal youth, only look at your daughters. So as to constantly be like, I used to be fly in my day. Like to be able to say, I used to be beautiful purely because you're looking at your daughter and you're like, yar. That's what being content with getting old and having a beautiful young daughter does for you. When you are holy, when you are loved, when you are happy, your daughter is a flex when she's beautiful because she is a volume 2.0 literally of you on the earth. It's a way of maintaining some kind of eternal life or immortality on the planet. Having children is a form of immortality. I've always looked at it that way. It is a form of immortality. It's like a mirror of you as a child, seeing as when you were a child you didn't see how you looked. Now that you're all grown up, you get to see what you look like as a baby. Like my mother, her photo as a baby next to the photo of my grandmother as a baby are splitting, they're a splitting image of each other. Like direct, like literally mirror image of each other. Mirror image. My mother as a baby, my grandmother as a baby. So I mean, when you get an opportunity to bring like a person, like you get to see what you used to look like when you were cooing, when you were cute, when you were adorable, when you were crying as a baby, when you were basically doing what babies do that makes them so adorable, you get to see how you were. That's what a child is. Like, people don't recognize that. It is literally volume 2.0 of you on the earth. Who does not want to play around with an archetype of themselves as they grow up? You want to see what you were. So when then your daughter becomes this beautiful teenage girl and then young adult, it's like, whoa, man, I was hot. That's what you get to say. But when you've got narcissistic personality disorder and when you can't stand the glory of your own child, that's not a good thing. That is you hating the glory of that kid instead of loving it. If you cannot love the beauty of your growing daughter, you married wrong or you conceived wrong. Something went terribly wrong in the whole process of you bringing a child into this world. It shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that hard. And wicked men make the lives of women freaking tough. Like tough, too tough for them to truly love their children. So you can either take it from me or not. But one thing that I would like to use as a disincentive to stay women's hands from continuing to just marry anything that proposes to it is the fact that you don't want to be that yelling mom that's always telling off your daughters, even when they haven't had it coming. Or the person that can keep on yelling at a person for an hour, long after you've already made your point the first time around. Like the first minute when you were telling me where to get off, that was enough. But then the fact that you can keep on going for another 45 minutes, just going and going and going and going. Just going. On that day, you're adding insult to injury. People can hear, and they get the point the first time. And when you keep on repeating the same thing for another half an hour, you tell them they're stupid. And if they can't get out, if they can't leave the room, if they can't go sit in a car, if they can't go basically to the corner of a roof, you then subjugate them to the tyranny of you speaking to them like they're nothing for an hour. Do you want to be that woman? I didn't think so. Wait on the Lord, guys. It's not worth it. I'm signing out in Christ's name, Cran K. Bye.